Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gita Mary and today I am going to be answering a question, a very frequently asked question. We are going to be talking about what kind of shopping method, online or in-store, that's the most sustainable. This is a question I've stumbled upon literally hundreds of times, and I often get people in my DMs asking me if it's okay to buy an eco-swap if they have to buy it online, or if they should continue to use the conventional item that's more unsustainable but that they can buy in a local shop. As this is a notion that's causing a lot of confusion, I think it could be great to make a video about it. I hope it's going to be great, that's all I'm saying. And if the impact of transportation is something that's keeping people from trying eco-swaps, that's definitely something I want to talk about. Now, the short answer is that it's actually more sustainable to shop online than buying something in a store. One study found that e-commerce delivery uses less primary energy and produces less CO2 emissions than traditional retailing. Overall, e-commerce has about 30% lower energy consumption and CO2 emissions compared to traditional retail. An MIT study showed the same, that online shopping actually has a lower transportation impact than buying something in an actual store. And this actually not only accounts for the transportation impact, but also for the energy consumption of that method as well. Now, a product that you have to buy in store has to be shipped from a manufacturer or factory to a warehouse or a storage facility and then to the shop, and then it goes to your home. However, when you buy something online, specifically with home delivery, you get to skip a step. It doesn't have to be transported to the store before being transported to you. And that's where a lot of the CO2 emissions can be saved. The MIT study also found that consumers who shopped exclusively online could have a carbon footprint related to their shopping that were almost 2 times smaller than that of traditional shoppers. Now, there's obviously also a long answer, because there's actually a lot of different aspects that goes into whether or not the traditional in-store shopping method is more sustainable, or whether or not the online shopping experience is more sustainable. And a lot of these aspects can actually be determined by the consumer themselves, so like we've got that going for us. In 2019, online shopping accounted for 1 in 7 of all retail purchases made, and I assume that during the global panini that number has only gone up. The market of online shopping is also valued at $3.5 trillion in 2019. And that number is rising with a fifth every year. One thing that really surprised me when I started looking into the transportation impact of different types of shopping methods is where the majority of the transportation impact comes from. The majority, the most important part of that impact comes from the last mile, which is the last space it has to travel to get to your home, either from a storage facility, a warehouse, or from a shop. The author of the book Decarbonizing Logistics, Alan McKinnon, says this: wherever your latest purchase comes from, transportation from the store or warehouse to home likely dominates the delivery footprint. Actually, the last mile constitutes more of the overall transportation impact than all previous steps in the supply chain combined. If I had to make a qualified guess as to why that is, I would say it's probably because all the way throughout the supply chain, sourcing of the materials, sending products to a warehouse, we're shipping in really large quantities, so there are lots of individual products throughout which the impact can be shared. And you ship it to an individual household, or you transport it from a store to an individual household. All that impact cannot be divided throughout several products, but is all accounted for in one product, which is why that accounts for the majority of the impact of transportation. Okay. Now, these studies of online shopping habits and in-store shopping habits and the impact and how they compare are all based on the notion that a majority of consumers drive to buy products and then drive back home with that product. And of course, that has a higher impact than a delivery van that delivers perhaps 50 plus parcels, because then there is one van that goes around with 50 packages, in contrast to your one car that goes from one place to your place with one thing. However, the discussion becomes a lot more nuanced if you don't drive your car to the store, the warehouse, and back home. But if you walk, bike, or take public transportation, obviously the impact of that last mile is going to reduce significantly and perhaps be even more sustainable than a delivery van. There's also the notion that deliveries might not always be successful. Actually, up to 60% of all home deliveries fail the first time. This means that a delivery van has to make multiple trips with the same parcel or drop it off at a pickup spot. And if the consumer then drives from home to the pickup spot to pick up that one parcel, Well, yeah, we're just back to square one in terms of transportation emissions. My point here being that every false move just increases the impact of delivery. So the more successful and efficient home delivery is, the more sustainable it also is. And this is something a lot of shipping companies and brands are working internally to fix. But obviously there's also a lot consumers can do, like being home when delivery arrives, or planning your schedule so that you are able to be home so you don't have to drive out and get it, or the parcel don't have to be re-delivered. There are also other aspects that factor in terms of emissions and home delivery. And one of them is whether or not you're in a hurry. Speed delivery and overnighting packages can actually triple the transportation emissions. That's because the shipping company no longer has the flexibility to just fill up a van with parcels and then go out to deliver them. When they're on a tight time schedule or they have to bring something to your home in 24 hours, well, then they have to pack less packages into the van and go out to meet those specific time requirements. And that adds to the impact because the car has the same amount of impact, but now there are fewer packages to account for it, so they're not distributed throughout as many products. Let's return to the truth about returns for a while. I have actually made an entire video dedicated to the truth of returns and what happens to our items when we choose to return them, because in a lot of cases they actually end up in landfill. That's because in many industries it's cheaper to simply just make new products rather than repackage and redistribute the returned products. Also because it takes time to repackage and redistribute returned items, and in many industries everything goes so fast, like in fast fashion, that by the time that would have been possible, the item is already outdated. Thus, lots of waste. Furthermore, shopping online also shows to increase returns. This is partly due to the fact that it's so incredibly easy to return items that you've bought online, to the extent that returning a product is often free or very uncomplicated, and as such there is a tendency among consumers to buy more than they need simply just to return the items that they didn't want anyway. I remember when I was in high school, I had to get a new dress for every single event. Yes, it's awful. And it's not uncommon either. So I would buy like 7 dresses and I would try them on and I would keep the one that fit me the best, and the rest I would just return. Easy peasy. A study from 2019 shows that a whopping 40% of online purchases end up being returned. And in contrast, only 7% of items bought in store ends up being returned. Now, of course, this all ends out in a discussion about conscious consuming sustainably and mindfully, and not buying more than we need, and avoiding overconsumption and unsustainable industries. Ta-da! You can just buy completely unhinged and you'll be good to go. Obviously not. I also think it's important to remind ourselves that just because the transportation impact of buying online is less than buying in store, that doesn't mean that the items you buy online are inherently more sustainable. We still have to be wary of supply chain and material sourcing and workers' wages and sustainable materials and just all this stuff that we talk about in all of the other videos. Obviously still relevant. This is just me saying that if all you heard in this video was me saying you can buy all the clothes you want from Shein because it's more sustainable than buying something from a local shop, watch the video again. On the other hand, if transportation emissions is all that's kept you from getting that plastic-free, sustainable, solid shampoo, and you've simply just kept using the packaged, plastic packaged liquid shampoo, then this is me saying by all means, go get it. In order to make this issue even more confusing, I feel like I want to sum up some of the aspects that can worsen or lessen the impact. Lightning round. The last mile, aka the transportation from store or warehouse to your home, has a bigger transportation impact than all previous transportation in the supply chain. Choosing speed delivery will increase the impact in contrast to regular delivery. Driving to pick up an item or a parcel will have a higher impact than having it delivered to your door. Choosing green transportation to pick up items in store will likely have a smaller transportation impact than home delivery. Studies show that online shopping can be more sustainable because these studies are based on similar supply chains. If a shop does not use warehouses or has a shorter supply chain than the online option, that might be more sustainable, like local brands, craftspeople, artists, etc. When buying online, look for national distributors before buying from overseas companies. Buying a sustainable product online has a lower impact than continuing to use a disposable or less sustainable product bought in store. If you live in a rural area where you have to drive to shop, then online shopping with regular home delivery is more sustainable. If you think there's a chance a product might not fit or work, trying or buying in store rather than returning might be the best option. If you're buying online, use the sizing guides or know your measurements. That helps a whole lot as well. And do remember that transportation accounts for an average of only 12% of a product's collective impact. This means that transportation is obviously important because there is an impact and we can lessen it and be more conscious as consumers. That's amazing. But it's also important to keep in mind that there are so many other aspects that accounts for sustainability that are just as, and I would even argue, much more important as well. So keep that in mind. That was the video. I hope that you liked it. I hope this answered your questions, and I hope this made it easier to make a decision into the future. Thank you so much for watching. If you have anything to add, leave a comment down below and like up this video if you liked it. That would make my day. Also subscribe to this channel. That would also make my day. Have a really good one and I will see you guys in my next video. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero-waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!